My name is Sophie Martinez. I'm 36 years old, and I live in Barcelona, Spain. If you had met me just a year ago, you probably would have thought my life was almost ordinary, maybe even predictable. I was a high school literature teacher, wife to a kind but often distant husband, and mother to a sweet little boy named Lucas, who just turned 6. To the outside world, my days looked peaceful, filled with classes, papers to grade, school meetings, and endless chores at home. Yet inside, I often found myself plagued with questions that wouldn't leave me alone. Was I really living the life I was meant for? Was there a purpose to all this routine, to all these little joys and daily struggles? What happens to us when we die? Does anyone or anything really see us? I carried these doubts quietly, not daring to share them even with my closest friends. Every morning, as I walked Lucas to school, feeling the cool breeze from the Mediterranean Sea, I'd try to push them aside. But at night, when the world grew quiet and my son was asleep, those thoughts would return, sometimes overwhelming, sometimes like a gentle ache. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, yearning for answers, for reassurance, for something more. I never imagined that an answer, profound, terrifying, and beautiful, was waiting for me just around the corner. That an ordinary woman like me could have her entire existence turned upside down in a single moment. And I certainly never believed that I'd find myself on the brink of death, my soul torn from my body, only to return with a message that I'd be desperate to share with the world. Before I take you on this journey, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt that quiet longing for something more, a hidden purpose behind your daily life? If you relate to this, write your feelings in the comments. Let's start this conversation together. Barcelona is a city that hums with life, narrow streets echoing with laughter, sunlight glinting off the sea, evenings perfumed with the smell of orange blossoms and grilled sardines. My life, though set in this vibrant city, had become a routine I followed almost automatically. Each morning began with the sound of Lucas's little feet thumping down the hallway, his arms reaching for a hug before breakfast. My husband, Daniel, would leave early for his job as an architect, always promising we'd talk later, though somehow that time rarely came. At school, my classroom was filled with the soft buzz of students discussing poetry, rolling their eyes at Shakespeare, or sighing over lost love in Spanish literature. I took pride in my work, but secretly, I wondered if I was truly making a difference, or if I was just another face they'd soon forget. I felt responsible for shaping young minds, but my own heart was restless. Family life was loving but complicated. My parents lived across town, growing older, sometimes needing help. Weekends blurred into errands, groceries, laundry, birthday parties. Even on those rare date nights, Daniel and I found ourselves scrolling through our phones, half present. Sometimes I felt invisible, like I was performing the role of good mother, good wife, good teacher, without really being seen. Spiritually, I was lost. My faith had faded into something distant and uncertain, like a language I used to speak fluently but could no longer recall. I envied people who seemed so sure, who prayed with conviction, who said they felt God's presence. I wanted to believe, but most days, I simply felt empty. Still, I held on to hope that someday, somehow, things would change. Maybe I'd find a sign, or a sudden spark would reignite the faith I'd lost. But nothing ever happened, or so I thought. Let me ask you, have you ever felt like you're just going through the motions, living each day on autopilot? Or maybe you felt invisible, even to the people who love you? Write your experience in the comments. Do you think there's more to life than what we see? Your story matters. The decisive moment. Sometimes, life pivots on an ordinary day. Mine was a Thursday, cloudy, brisk, and seemingly unremarkable. I remember rushing out of the house, half juggling Lucas's backpack and my stack of lesson plans, barely pausing to kiss Daniel goodbye. I was late for school, caught in the kind of frantic hurry that felt so normal back then. The hours slipped by in a blur of classes and meetings. That afternoon, a friend from work asked if I'd cover her after-school club. I agreed, as always, too polite to say no. By the time I left school, dusk was already settling over the city. On my drive home, rain began to fall, transforming Barcelona's streets into shimmering ribbons. My mind drifted, worrying about Lucas, my parents, the papers I still had to grade. That's when it happened. A flash of headlights, the screech of tires, a heavy impact that seemed to come from nowhere. My small car spun out of control. The world turned upside down. In those seconds, time seemed to slow. My mind raced. Fear, regret, desperate prayers all mingling into one long, silent scream. I thought of Lucas, of Daniel, of all the things I'd never said. I felt helpless, powerless. The pain was sudden and sharp, then strangely distant, fading into a kind of numbness. And then, nothing, just darkness and quiet. Was this what death felt like? Was I gone? I want to hear from you. Have you or someone you know ever experienced a moment when everything changed in an instant? What did it teach you about life or about yourself? Share your story in the comments. Let's support each other through these moments of crisis. The accident and the sensation of death. In those first few moments after the crash, reality felt like it was slipping away from me. The sounds of the world grew distant. The blare of horns, the hiss of rain, the frantic shouts of people nearby. It was as if someone had pressed mute on life itself. My vision blurred. The bright city lights outside my window faded into a swirling tunnel of colors. I became acutely aware of my own body. The sharp ache in my chest, the sticky warmth of blood on my forehead, my hands trembling uncontrollably. And then, as if a great weight was being lifted, I felt a strange lightness, almost as if I was floating just above myself. The pain dulled, the fear vanished, and all at once I was no longer afraid. It's hard to describe the exact moment when I realized I was dying. There was no dramatic revelation, no flashing images of my life. Instead, there was a gentle sense of letting go, like drifting off to sleep after a long day. All the worries and responsibilities that once pressed so heavily on my heart seemed so small now, so far away. As I hovered between worlds, I sensed a vast, quiet presence enveloping me, something loving and boundless. I remember thinking, is this the end? Or just the beginning of something I've never known? I felt the deepest peace I'd ever known, a silence so profound that it seemed to hold all the answers I had spent my whole life searching for. Have you ever wondered what it might feel like to die? What do you think happens in those final moments between life and death? Share your thoughts in the comments, even if it's just a question or a feeling. Your perspective might help someone else who's searching for answers, too. The next sensation was like nothing I'd ever experienced, not even in dreams. I found myself hovering above the accident scene, looking down at my own crumpled body, motionless behind the shattered windshield. I could see the chaos below, strangers rushing to help, the blue flash of ambulance lights painting the rain-soaked street, my phone vibrating with an incoming call from Daniel. Yet, none of it felt frightening. It was as if I was watching a distant movie about someone else's life. Above me, the world seemed to dissolve into soft light. My pain and fear had vanished, replaced by a sense of absolute freedom. I could feel everything and nothing at once. The cold night air, the warmth of unseen hands comforting me, the faint scent of wet earth rising from the street. As I drifted upward, I felt drawn toward a presence, vast, luminous, and endlessly compassionate. It was as if the air itself was alive, whispering reassurance and love into the core of my being. Every sorrow, regret, and worry I'd ever carried melted away. For the first time, I felt completely seen, every part of me known and accepted. Floating there, detached from the weight of my physical body, I began to understand that I was more than flesh and bone. There was something eternal inside me, something that couldn't be broken or lost. Have you ever felt a sense of peace or connection that you couldn't explain? Do you believe our spirit continues after the body dies? Write your thoughts, doubts, or hopes in the comments. Your voice matters, and you never know who needs to read what you have to say. The journey of light, encounter with a spiritual being. As I drifted higher, the world below faded into gentle silence. I found myself moving through a tunnel, not dark and frightening, but filled with a radiant golden light that seemed to pulse with love and understanding. Every fear, every burden I'd carried, was stripped away with each passing second. I felt as if I was being cleansed from the inside out, prepared for something magnificent. Suddenly, the light grew even brighter, and out of that brilliance, a figure emerged. His presence was both familiar and overwhelming, radiating compassion deeper than anything I had ever known. His eyes, soft, deep, and full of ancient wisdom, met mine, and without a word, I knew I was in the presence of Jesus. Though I'd questioned my faith for so many years, there was no doubt now. I felt his acceptance, not judgment. He knew everything about me, every fear, every failure, every hope, and he loved me, exactly as I was. He reached out, not with words, but with a powerful sense of understanding. In his presence, I felt the meaning of true forgiveness. All the things I'd regretted, arguments with Daniel, times I'd lost patience with Lucas, moments I'd doubted myself, seemed so small now, seen through eyes of infinite grace. Around us, other gentle presences appeared, beings of light, perhaps angels, radiating kindness and reassurance. Together, they showed me moments from my life, not to judge, but to help me understand the ripple effects of every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, even the silent prayers I'd whispered in doubt. The message was clear. Love is the only thing that endures. Everything else fades. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had an encounter or feeling you couldn't explain? A sense of something greater? Or the presence of a loved one who has passed? Tell your story or your questions in the comments. Let's create a safe space for sharing what many people are afraid to talk about. The message received. A prophecy for our time. While bathed in that endless light, Jesus looked into my eyes, not with words, but with a profound understanding that settled deep within my soul. Instantly, images and feelings flooded through me, scenes of the world as it is now. So much fear, division, loneliness, and uncertainty. I saw people longing for connection, desperate for hope, searching for purpose in a world that often feels lost. Then, his voice resonated inside my heart. You are loved beyond measure, but the world needs to remember this truth. There is a darkness growing, not just in cities or countries, but inside hearts closed by pain, anger, and indifference. My children have forgotten how powerful love can be. They have traded compassion for judgment and hope for fear. You must remind them. I was shown flashes of global challenges, environmental disasters, conflicts, families torn apart by misunderstanding and pride. Yet amid all this, I saw the gentle glow of ordinary acts of kindness, a hand reaching out, a tear wiped away, strangers becoming friends. The message was clear. No matter how great the darkness, one small light can ignite hope in others. Every choice rooted in love ripples outward, changing the world in ways we may never see. Go back, the voice told me. Share what you have seen. Remind them to love, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I hesitated. The light was so beautiful, the peace so complete. But I understood. I had a mission, a message the world desperately needed. My journey wasn't over. Let me ask you, do you believe a single act of love can change the world? What message do you think humanity needs to hear right now? Please share your thoughts or hopes in the comments. Maybe your words will be the spark someone else needs today. Leaving that world of light was the hardest thing I've ever done. As the presence of Jesus and the angels began to fade, I felt myself being pulled backward, almost as if I was falling, tumbling through layers of sound and sensation. The peace I had known was replaced by a crushing weight, the familiar heaviness of my body, the cold sting of rain against my skin. Suddenly I was aware of pain, sharp, insistent, real. Voices called my name. Paramedics shined a light into my eyes. I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. It felt strange and unfair to be back in this broken, aching body after tasting such perfect freedom. I longed for the warmth and safety of that other place, but now I was surrounded by fear, confusion, and the frantic rhythm of life rushing in again. Recovery was not immediate. In the hospital, every movement hurt. I drifted in and out of sleep, haunted by the vivid memories of my journey. Sometimes I doubted myself. Was it just a dream, a hallucination brought on by trauma? But deep down, I knew the truth. I had touched something real, something eternal. And with that truth came an overwhelming sense of responsibility. I had been given a message. I was here for a reason. My second chance was a gift I couldn't ignore. Have you ever come back from a crisis or a dark time in your life and felt changed? How did you find the strength to move forward? Do you believe difficult experiences can give us a new sense of purpose? Share your stories or encouragement in the comments. Someone might need to hear your journey today. Transformation and mission. Returning to everyday life after my near-death experience was both a blessing and a challenge. Physically, I faced months of recovery, endless doctor visits, physical therapy, relearning how to move without pain. But the real struggle was invisible. How do you live in the world again when your heart has seen eternity? The questions I once had about faith and purpose were replaced by a burning sense of mission. I began to see everyone differently. My husband, my son, even strangers on the street. I realized how precious and fragile every moment truly is. Every conversation, every smile, every act of patience felt important in a way I had never understood before. Daniel struggled to understand what had changed in me. Some days we argued more than we talked. My friends wondered if I was the same Sophie, but deep inside, I knew I could never go back to the way things were. I began to share my experience, first with family, then with my students, and finally, nervously, with anyone who would listen. The more I spoke, the more I realized how many others were searching for hope, for meaning, for connection. I started volunteering, reaching out to people going through grief or crisis. My faith returned, stronger, more honest, rooted in the love I had felt in that other world. I understood now. My life's mission was to share the message of love and forgiveness, no matter the cost. Have you ever gone through something that changed your outlook on life? How did it affect your relationships, your faith, or your sense of purpose? Share your experiences or words of encouragement in the comments. Your story could help someone else take their first step toward healing. As I share this journey with you, I'm reminded every day how fragile and beautiful life truly is. My experience changed me in ways I could never have imagined. And though the world still feels uncertain, I now live with a hope and urgency I want everyone to feel. I know there are many people out there carrying silent questions, invisible pain, or a longing for something more. If you're one of them, please know you're not alone. Whether or not you believe in near-death experiences or spiritual encounters, your doubts, dreams, and struggles matter deeply. Every day, we're offered small chances to choose love over fear, forgiveness over anger, hope over despair. I believe those choices, no matter how tiny, are what truly shape our world. My mission is to remind you, you are seen, you are loved, and your life has meaning, even when it doesn't feel that way. So now, I want to invite you. What questions are you carrying in your heart right now? What is one thing you wish you could tell the world if everyone would listen? Write your answer in the comments. Let's create a community of support, hope, and honesty, right here, together. And if this story moved you, if you want to be part of a circle that believes in second chances and the power of love, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who needs encouragement. Let's spread light, one story, one heart at a time. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and join the conversation. Your voice matters.